What is up, NFL fans, and welcome to the Legit Football NFL podcast. It's your boy, Kevin Phillip Fox, and usually I would be absolutely delighted to share the screen with my friend from down under, Adrian Revito, my former partner in crime, Mr. Brian McFadden, Mr. Legit Football, our, resident Colts fan, our resident head coach and quarterback, Jimmy Ray. However, today, none of the above is happening because good news. We're getting the old band back together. And my producer, Anthony Wehner, is jumping on the mic to help me out with the show. Anthony Wehner, how are we feeling today?
Hey, I'm feeling good. I like all the news coming out, and I'm really excited for the football season to start. But I've been watching a lot of baseball, so I've been a little bit distracted. So Legit Football has been keeping me in the loop, and it's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. And, I do love me some tangential sports. I'm a man of many hats. I love me some basketball. I love me some baseball. But we could just say this right out the bat just so everybody knows. Football is untouchable as the best sport in all of the world, not just America, but all of the world. And I'm looking forward to when the NFL and football infiltrates every country because I just think it's the most exciting sport, the most fun sport. And I'm talking about football, not football, because football is cool too. Soccer, they love their soccer. It is called soccer, to be clear. Football is the one that's played with the pigskin weird shaped. I don't know there's like a term for it. I don't know what it is. It's like a sphere of some kind, like a something sphere. That's for smarter minds than me. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's waste no time because we do have so much news to get into. Let's talk some legit headlines. Shout out to Armand for being in the chat. As always, Armand, we're looking out for you today, man. We're really hoping to get some juice, some love from you today. Our first legit headline, Anthony, remind me again, what's the first one? I'm pulling up the doc right now. Dalvin Cook would like to play for the Dolphins or the Bills next season.
So sorry, I just realized you were talking to me.
All good. Hey, guys, Anthony, we're working
here.
with a 60% Anthony today. We have 100% me, 60% Anthony, no other team. So bear with us. It's going to be a great show regardless because like I said, I'll just give extra to offset Anthony's. Oh, Armand has the juice too. So Armand is going to help as well. Dalvin Cook would like to play for either the Dolphins or the Bills next year. Cook, per Outkick's Armando Salguero, hopes his next team will be the Dolphins or the Bills. He's looking to play for the AFC East. Can't blame him. The Vikings are widely expected to trade or release Dalvin Cook at some point between now and training camp. As far as the Dolphins, Cook is from Miami and currently training in South Florida. The Dolphins lack a surefire starter at the position. They do have a handful of solid running backs. We'll talk about that in a second. Last week, Mike McDaniel seemed to hint that the Dolphins were interested in signing the four-time Pro Bowler. And as for the Bills, Cook is intrigued by the Bills because he'd like to play with his brother James, of course, naturally. And also, who wouldn't want to play for the Bills, right? Unlike the Dolphins, however, the Bills are not expected to return the interest to Dalvin Cook. So, Anthony, what are your thoughts on this?
So when it comes to like a running back saying like, hey, I want to play for this team, I'm interested in being traded to this team, how much does the front office ensure that happens? Because it really depends on the relationship too. And I think that if we think about, we don't usually talk about what's happening in the front office, but when we do, that's who at the end of the day is going to make the trade. And that's where we're going to find out where Cook is going. And when does he get to decide where he gets traded to, or is this just an irrelevant headline?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, Anthony, because it's nice to know where he wants to play, but it's like also I could just say like I want to play for the Bills. And that's as relevant as this, I guess as an NFL player, a team is, if you're a team and a player wants to play for you, it does incentivize you a little bit to go out and get them. But like this article says, I don't really know that the Bills have much interest. They do have a pretty stacked running back room. Honestly, I think Miami's running back room is pretty stacked too. If I was Mike McDaniel, I would be looking at Devon Achane first and foremost as the main guy in that backfield. Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Salvon Ahmed. The only reason that I would sign Dalvin Cook if I was the Dolphins is that they the injury history among a lot of their guys is questionable, most certain Wilson especially. So it's not a bad insurance policy, but how much are you going to have to pay for an insurance policy? Like if you could give up a seventh next year, I say bring him in. But if we're talking any sort of a premium, dollar amount, any sort of a premium, asset giveaway, I don't think it's worth it myself.
I agree, but do you remember when Dalvin Cook was like that guy? He was just
Oh,
like
yeah.
one of the
Not
best running backs at the time. And it's just like everything is about Dalvin Cook. It's like Minnesota has one of the greatest running backs. He's going to take it to the playoffs, and there's just all this talk about him. And then last year, just kind of Alexander Madison kind of took over, hit most of his snaps after the injury, and then now Cook is like, all right, so do you think he can shine elsewhere, or did it have a lot to do with being in Minnesota?
I do think he's got a little bit left in the tank, and I think it would be nice if he went to a contender or a team with a stable running back position, because I don't think you want Dalvin Cook to be your 1A option anymore. I just don't think he has that juice. But I think if you gave him spurts, if you gave him opportunities here and there, I do think that he could still produce, but on a level of more of a complementary role or like a backup, sort of like coming in and spelling the main running back, which is why, that's the only question for Miami and Buffalo, really, because like I said, I mean, between the two teams, they have really 8 pretty quality running backs. I mean, if you were ranking Bills and Dolphins running backs, Dalvin Cook, if you threw him in there, he might be on the lower half of those rankings.
I do think that no matter where I do think Dalvin Cook's gonna Dalvin Cook, and I think that he's still at the age where he is still peak athleticism, and he's
running backs
still
decline faster than other positions,
they
though.
do, but he still has the physical ability
He
to,
does. No question, he does.
get it done. And yeah, I'm not saying take 37, 40 snaps a game. Maybe take 20, get the third downs,
Yeah,
get the red
exactly.
zone
I agree with
carries.
that.
'Cause then
Yeah.
that's where he's efficient. And I think that whoever he does end up going to can utilize him as an efficient third down back, as an efficient red zone running back. And I just think Cook's gonna cook.
Yeah, and we got Armand bringing up a rumor that I've also heard this rumor. Cook has already agreed to contract terms with the Jets, so if pending release, he would sign that. But the Vikings are going to still try to trade him, which makes sense because the Vikings want to recoup some assets.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So if that's true, then that's pretty interesting. Armand immediately brings up the report and then says he doesn't believe it himself. So it's still relevant information. You never know, right? I mean, we appreciate the extra feedback, Armand. You never know how much truth is to these stories, but we have Detective Armand on the case. And I think that's about all we can talk about with Dalvin Cook. He's a big name, so it commands a headline. It commands some attention, but I don't necessarily think it's that relevant.
Well, this
moving
next
forward.
one,
This next
bigger
one,
name,
super relevant. The biggest name available right now. We have wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. The rumor is that signing with the Browns for Hopkins is seen as a strong possibility. Sources tell Aaron Wilson that there is strong mutual interest between Hopkins and the Browns. Last week, Deshaun Watson said he'd love to see Hopkins in Cleveland. The two played together in Houston from 2017 to 2019. Hopkins would form a dangerous, albeit aging, duo with Amari Cooper. The Browns also have Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Marquise Trackstar Goodwin at the position. Browns coach Kevin Stefanski believes a pass-first offense approach will give his team the best chance to compete in a highly competitive AFC North environment. Hopkins is hoping to match or exceed the one-year, $15 million deal that the Baltimore Ravens gave Odell Beckham. Myself, I could see Hopkins commanding that kind of money, but the teams he's looking at, he's talked about wanting to latch on him to contender. He's talked about wanting to play with a top-flight quarterback. I don't see Buffalo or Kansas City participating or playing ball at the $15 million mark. Anthony, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. And I think that the Browns is the perfect fit. I mean, reuniting with Deshaun Watson, I think that that's it's romantic in its own way. Football is romantic. And
hilarious. They have good chemistry. They had some of their best years together. So It
I
would be
mean, they do,
interesting.
and I think that Hopkins isn't done yet. I mean,
No, he's got
some
some
could
steam.
yeah, he's aging. But I mean, look at how long Jerry Rice played. I'm not comparing him to Jerry Rice, but his age. Look how long Jerry Rice played and how he was so good for so many years.
Yeah, there's
That
a certain way that receivers win that allows their game to age gracefully, and I think DeAndre Hopkins is that kind of receiver. I think his game could age gracefully. Really quick, Armand says he does want Cook in New York to take some pressure off Breece Hall. I could dig that. Back to Hopkins. I do think the Browns are a legitimate threat. I do think the Texans are a dark horse legitimate threat. Those two teams. I believe the Patriots, the Packers, the Chiefs, I believe all those teams are still. I think Buffalo, and we'll talk about this later, but Buffalo has been very active last couple of days. I do think their activity lately has kind of rules them out a little bit.
well,
Brandon
and
B did
then
say on the Pat McAfee podcast today that he's not ruling it out, but that the contract numbers seem far and that it would have to work. So
yeah,
I, you know,
DeAndre Hopkins is a win now asset,
he
and
is.
whoever he goes to is they're gonna have to be contenders.
Mm-hmm.
Hopkins
Yeah,
is gonna go somewhere where he can win because his years are almost over, and
got
he's
a
not
handful of years, 2 or 3
right.
probably
I mean,
left.
he left Arizona because they're rebuilding.
Oh
He's not
yeah,
gonna go to a team that's rebuilding, who's trying to work
no,
things out, who's building a new receiver room, who's waiting until the 2025 quarterback class to draft somebody. Like, it's not gonna happen like that.
yeah.
Hopkins is gonna go where he can win, and he's gonna have to go to a contender. So we can rule out all the non-contenders. So the Chiefs and Bills, it just makes sense. The Texans,
Yeah.
probably not. The Browns, maybe, just because of Deshaun Watson.
The
And
Texans
it's just a
probably not,
lot to
but think
consider.
about this though, Anthony. Think about this. Players like DeAndre Hopkins who have had a lot of success, who are wide receivers, right? They have big egos, right? So maybe DeAndre Hopkins looks at the Texans and says, if I'm added into the equation, it's a different conversation. Maybe he thinks himself makes them a contender. You know what I'm saying? It's possible. Same with the Browns.
That's why I would think it would make more sense to go to Cleveland.
Yeah, I
You have
agree.
the veterans who have been playing in the league for a long time. You're not hanging around college kids. You're with people who have been in the
That's
league
true.
for a while, and I think that that's where he'll be more comfortable. That's where he can really thrive as a receiver of his age and his athleticism. I mean, he's a big dude. He can go up, and I mean, you saw that Hail Mary catch from Kyler
Oh my
Murray,
God,
and
incredible.
he could still do things like that. So go do it for the right team with the right quarterback.
Yeah, he's definitely got potential to go down as one of the best receivers of our time.
He's definitely a
Um,
Hall of Famer.
I think so. I think there's a really good case for him to be a Hall of Famer. Armand's rankings: Browns, Chiefs, Bills, Texans. I think that's pretty realistic. I think that's
That
a
makes
good way to rank them. Man, that Chiefs man. You know me. I'm always gonna bring my Bills fan angle to everything. I would hate to see him in Kansas City. I think it would be great for the Chiefs. I think it'd be great for Nuke. I think it would be horrible for the NFL. I think it would all but solidify the Chiefs as the locked in favorites to win the whole damn thing again.
Absolutely.
Also fantasy football, Mamma Mia, that dude's going to catch 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns with Mahomes. But that's a good place to leave the Nuke conversation. We do have a juicy main topic, so I do kind of want to keep the ball rolling. Quick flash coverage of OTAs, Anthony. We agreed prior to the show. OTAs are interesting, but there is a limit to how interesting OTAs can really be. So we'll cover this information. I would be happy to read the information and talk about it a little bit. So we have some updates from the Packers OTAs and some updates from the Falcons OTAs. Starting with Romeo Doubs and Luke Musgrave, both flashing chemistry with Jordan Love. Doubs has been Love's go-to target at OTAs. During a 2-minute drill last week, the pair connected 4 times. That's impressive in a 2-minute drill. As a rookie last year, Doubs caught 42 of 67 targets, 62.7 catch percentage, for 425 yards and 3 touchdowns across 13 games. As far as Luke Musgrave, the second-round pick this year has impressed reporters with his movement skills. Paul Brattel of Packers Wire wrote that the 6'6", 249-pounder was a matchup problem when running seam and crosser routes during competitive drills. After practice, Matt LaFleur said Musgrave is different than any tight end he's ever coached during his time in Green Bay. Anthony, do you got any takeaways from these headlines?
I have a couple because of Dobbs. I mean, yeah, it was his first year, and he wasn't very good. He didn't break out like everyone thought he was. He
Yeah, I agree.
some said rookie of the year or offensive rookie of the year, and he did not show that at all. But
No.
could it have been the chemistry with Aaron Rodgers? Because There was none. It was non-existent. But if he has
Yeah.
chemistry with Jordan Love, I mean, are you ever like at the beach or you're walking and someone's like they're throwing a ball around, you're like, hey, throw it to me, and so they throw it to you and you catch it and it feels kind of weird. It's like almost foreign, right? And so, but if you're playing catch with your friends, it's like you're used to the throw, you're used to the catch, and
I
so you're
love
just
it.
like, okay, whatever. And I was just thinking about that. I'm like, all right, so this guy was catching balls from an old man who's been in the league for a very long time. Now there's someone he can connect with, who he can be friends with, who he can I guess relate to. And so I think that the chemistry here is going to be a huge factor in both of their success.
It's funny because most years when like we have wide receivers who have a breakout with a new quarterback, a lot of it is you know, a lot of it is chalked up to chemistry.
Yeah.
Steph Diggs and Josh Allen with their whole best friend thing that they had going for the last couple years. Fingers crossed that comes back. We had you know, stuff like Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford would eat breakfast together after
Yeah.
Stafford was traded. Stuff like that, Anthony. It's a really good point, and it's a very funny analogy. Just picturing, you know, walking on the beach and just catching a ball from a stranger, and you're like, I don't know if this feels right.
I mean,
It's
you know
very
what I mean,
funny.
right? It's
I do. I know
the whole
exactly what
thing.
you mean. It's a hilarious. It's a
Yeah.
hilarious metaphor. Dobbs, yeah, I wasn't too impressed with him his rookie year. I do tend to get a little bit stuck in my ways when I see a player and they don't pass the eye test, but I am willing to reevaluate Dobbs based on this report and based on the fact that he has a new quarterback, the fact that he
Absolutely.
has a year
Yeah.
in the system. I'm very interested in seeing what Dobbs has to offer. As for Musgrave, coming into the season, I was high on him already, so I actually think Musgrave is going to be a huge,
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, I think it's
huge
gonna be huge.
asset to the Packers passing attack. I'm very, very excited to see. And this could mean huge things for Jordan Love as a starter. This could mean that Jordan Love takes a step. I still think his supporting cast could afford to be a lot better. I do think like DeAndre Hopkins would make the supporting cast around Love a lot better. It would probably elevate everybody around them. But right now, it's a lot of young guys, you know,
Right,
Christian
but
Watson,
and then
Romeo
that
Dobbs.
narrative goes away from the win now mindset, and I just
It does. It
because
does.
I mean Jordan Love, he's obviously not going to go win in the next couple of years. I think it's
Well,
going to
let's
take a
see,
while.
Anthony, right? Let's see. Let's see. I mean, he's been in the league for 3 years now. This is going to be his what,
That's
fourth
true.
season?
I'll just tell you this: he's not taking the NFC North anytime soon, and I just there's so much evidence there that shows that because
Uh, uh,
they have so many
yeah,
years with this Hall of Fame quarterback, and now it's like starting back from square one.
we will have to see. You're
Yeah.
forecasting, Anthony. You're forecasting your hatred
Predicting
for the.
that's what we do, Kevin. No, I'm
Oh, it
being
is.
purely analytical right now. There's no bias whatsoever.
I agree that I think that it's a low likelihood that he'll go in there and snap, but it's not a 0% chance. You got to say
Oh no,
non-zero.
no one says zero.
No,
There's
but
never a 0% chance. There's
okay.
never.
You can't deal in
Can go win the
absolutes.
Super
Only
Bowl.
a Sith deals in absolutes. To quote
Arizona
Star
can
Wars.
go win the Super Bowl next year.
All right, now you're getting crazy. I can't have that. But no,
It's never zero. It's never
I
zero.
I like this update for the Packers. I like seeing it. And if Adrian was here, we'll talk to Adrian about it on Friday. But you know, OTA buzz, as we've said before, not a grain of salt, not a packet of salt. Get a shaker of salt when it comes to OTA news. That is a lot of you gotta take that. You know, you gotta measure that information. It's very, very interesting information always coming out of OTAs.
Yeah.
Last but not least, we have Mr. Legit Football himself, Brian McFadden's offseason darling Falcon OTAs. Cornerback Jeff Okudah steps up. Tight end Kyle Pitts remains out. Okudah, who was acquired via trade in April from Anthony's Detroit Lions, had a diving interception during the Falcons' practice on Friday. The former number 3 overall pick has been working as a starter opposite AJ Terrell. Anthony, does it surprise you that Okudah is running with the ones in Falcons
Yeah.
OTAs?
It does not
No.
surprise me, no. I think that he in Detroit, he showed up when he didn't have to because he was still a good player. He was still athletic. He could cover, but it was never the right spot for him. And I
Just not a
think
good
that
fit,
this
you
might
think?
be the right spot for him. I think this might be
Interesting.
the fit. That wasn't the system that Okuda could be his best version of himself in. We'll find out if Atlanta is where he's meant to be, or if he's really is just a wash and really just not a good player. And we're gonna find that out. But obviously, at the OTAs in Atlanta, he's doing good. So I'm ready to see if he can step up and
Yeah.
really play.
As you know, got to take it with a shaker of salt, but definitely good news is better than bad news, right? So shout out to Jeff Okudah. Hopefully he gets his career on the right track. He was a high draft pick, has not panned out really whatsoever. So let's see what happens if they can figure that out. On Kyle Pitts, Pitts continues to be held out of practice due to MCL surgery rehab. The 22-year-old underwent surgery in November, and there's currently no timeline for his return, says Arthur Smith. Smith does expect Pitts to be ready for the season opener, but mamma mia, that's far away, Anthony. And this feels a little bit like some bad vibes coming out of the Kyle Pitts hype train this year. What do you think?
I think, and we'll cover this more in our tight end main topic. So
We sure will.
It's gonna be fun. So when it comes to Kyle Pitts, I did pick him early in a dynasty league, and I've regretted it ever since. He doesn't even play, but I've kept him. I'm just like, he got this. It's gonna happen. He's gonna come back, and it's just not looking that way at all. And I can't. I mean, I can't even feel how Atlanta's feeling right now because they're probably like, we had the star tight end, and it's just not working. So I mean, what do you do? Do you start looking for a replacement? Do you bet your future on him? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, we're heading into year 3, and we're just kind of like, what's going on here? Like his first couple years, his first season was a little disappointing. I would say he still did have 1,000 yards and some.
I blame the OC for that.
Yeah,
I think he could have done much better if there's.
He's not scoring a ton of touchdowns. He's not getting open. I mean, they haven't really had the pinnacle of good quarterback play since he's been drafted. So I think that can be a variable. But right now, Anthony, yeah, I am the Kyle Pitts vibes are bad, and we will talk about that on today's show.
Yeah,
for sure. Really quick, we did say before the main topic we would have a quick Buffalo Bills roundup minute because you can't talk NFL news today without talking about the Buffalo Bills. I mean, Saturday, they extended defensive tackle Ed Oliver with a 4-year, $78 million contract extension. Also, today, they signed veteran pass rusher Leonard Floyd, who has had no less than 9 sacks in each of the last 3 seasons. Anthony, I'm the Bills fan, so I got my opinions, but as a non-Bills fan, as an outsider looking in, now, what are your thoughts on all this stuff?
I just know that watching the Bills last year, I saw a cutthroat team that could do everything. And so when I see players coming back, I feel like it's going to be reminiscent of watching that performance, and especially the wins. But even the losses weren't really losses. It just hurt your record, but they were winning on the field all the time. So you bring back those players who can put you in that position, and that's exactly what they're doing here.
Yeah, the Ed Oliver extension, I will admit, it's a little rich for my blood right off the rip. It's a lot of money to be paying.
It is, but he's a good player, and
he's a good player.
Players.
He absolutely, and you yourself, Anthony, as a Lions fan, saw some of the best from Ed Oliver. He had some flash plays in the game against Detroit. He's had some good plays. He makes a lot of splashy plays. He has a signature horse riding celebration. I absolutely love that. He was a 9th overall pick, and I think a lot of people expected him to be a little bit more dominant than he's been, but he's been consistently good or above average. He's making better than above average money now, and they got out ahead of his potential. Quinnen Williams has yet to sign. Christian Wilkins has yet to sign. The defensive tackle market has already boomed this offseason, but it's turning into one of the most premium positions in the NFL. And Ed Oliver got a contract that makes him roughly the 12th highest paid defensive tackle in football. And I think that's about where I would expect to see him paid. So the Ed Oliver thing, I'm happy with, and I'm glad that you agree. I am a little bit, I do wish they could have gotten him for a little less, but it is what it is. We're here now. The money's paid. If Ed Oliver goes out there and breaks out like we all expect him to, it's going to make the Bills look like geniuses. If he continues with the inconsistency and the not quite great play, but just maybe above average play, I think it will maybe look like maybe a little bit of a bad contract, but that's okay. You have to make those kinds of risks in team building, right?
Absolutely.
And the big thing is the cap space that was freed up from Ed Oliver's extension allowed Buffalo to go out today and sign veteran pass rusher Leonard Floyd, who has been, I believe, on the Rams.
Yeah, he was on the Rams Super Bowl team.
Last handful of seasons, and
yeah, he just won a ring.
So we already know he's got experience rushing opposite Von Miller. There's question marks as to whether or not Von Miller will be back for week 1. Von, if you ask Von, he'll say he'll be ready for training camp. Just because he's a positive guy, I respect that about him. But that is absolutely possibly not realistic given he tore his ACL on Thanksgiving. So let's pump the brakes on a Von Miller week 1 return. But now if he doesn't return, Leonard Floyd can step into his place, be the primary edge rusher opposite Greg Rousseau. Anthony, I mean, to me, this looks like a fantastic move. Brian McFadden has been saying that he thinks the Bills needed to address edge rusher. This is a pretty huge way to address edge, no?
It absolutely is. If you're gonna go try to make a playoff run, he's the guy you got to sign. I think. I mean, he's already seen the Super Bowl not too long ago. He was playing on a good Rams team with one of the best defenses in the league. I think that he knows how to work the system, and he's really going to lead that defense to being better than they were last year. Because I know that the pass rush was not as good as it could have been last year.
It fell off significantly following Von Miller's injury. When Von Miller was on the team, it was like top 5. When Von Miller tore his ACL, it was like bottom 5.
Yeah.
So if Leonard Floyd can come in and stabilize that line, imagine this, Anthony. You're for 3rd and 8, right? And you're facing the Bills' defensive front, and you look across from you and you see Leonard Floyd, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, and Von Miller. That's a 4-man rush. I mean, that they're getting home every time, right? Like that's a crazy defensive front. So it's something we love to see. The Buffalo Minute is now concluded. Good vibes all around. I do think it maybe takes Buffalo out of the running for DeAndre Hopkins, given the money they're going to probably have to pay for Leonard Floyd. But I think that's okay. We'll have to see. I mean, if he goes to Kansas City, I hate the move, but we'll see. Anyways, Anthony, are you ready for our main topic, my friend? We have tight ends. Now, this is an underrated position. Several people view it as a dead position. We talked about it on a show a couple weeks ago with Jimmy Ray. We don't want it to be a dead position, Anthony. We're football purists. Give me all the tight ends. Give me all the fullbacks. Yeah. Give me all the, I love a good tight end, man. It's one of my, yeah, dude, literally, right? Give me a long snapper. Give me a holder. I don't care. I want it all. Give me a kick returner. Kick returns might be dying. We'll talk about that another day. But for right now, we're talking about tight ends. And Anthony, let's start with our best 5. I mean, the number 1 best tight end in the NFL is...
That's simple.
Who has no idea? I have no idea. I don't know. It's wide open. It's obvious. It's Travis Kelce. It's the GOAT. One of the GOATs for sure. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is our best tight end in the NFL. And if we said anything else, I would expect you to turn our podcast off because we don't know ball. We know ball, though, on this show. And that's why we have Travis Kelce as our number 1 tight end. He's basically a receiver. He's Patrick Mahomes' number 1 weapon. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he gets a ring or 2 more in his career. I hate to say that. I just want to throw up. But it's true. We also have... number 2, I think this might be a little bit more of a conversation. I have mine number 2, Anthony. Are you thinking George Kittle?
I'm thinking George Kittle.
Let's go. So George Kittle it is.
It was a toss-up between him and Mark Andrews.
I agree. They're 2 and 3. Let's do Kittle 2, Andrews 3. As far as George Kittle goes, we all know what kind of a Herculean effort he puts in anytime he catches the ball. He's one of those aggressive, will run you over as opposed to juke you out kind of players. And he had amazing chemistry with Brock Purdy last year. I might not have put him at 2 on my list last year prior to the season, but based on the chemistry he flashed with Purdy and the stretch run of the season he had last year, I don't think there's any way Kittle can be anything but number 2 on our list. And Mark Andrews is number 3 because as Lamar Jackson's number 1 target, Mark Andrews is a difference maker. He makes unbelievable catches.
I gotta say something about Kittle.
Oh, absolutely. Please. Gas
him up. When I watch George Kittle play, he's very leader, I guess you could say. He's where Mark Andrews is kind of like he gets led, but George Kittle leads. And he's one of the guys, after Travis Kelce, of course, in the tight end position that controls that position. He controls the offense using the position that he's in, and I think that's really important. He's a good blocker. He's a good receiver. He could be in the argument to possibly be one of the greatest after Travis Kelce. But then he was going to Mark Andrews, and how much does that have to do with the offense being run? because George Kittle is with the Shanahan system that is just incredible. Mark
Mhm.
Andrews is not with anything close to Shanahan. So how much does that have to do with why he's number 3 over number 2? Because he is a good tight end.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I agree with you about Kittle being a leader and making it work in the Shanahan system. Yeah, Andrews, he does play the position very versatile, just the same way Kittle does, just the same way Kelsey does, but he doesn't have the same consistent degree of success. And when he loses Lamar Jackson, he's just not the same player. He's
It's true.
definitely him and Lamar Jackson have an incredible chemistry. And I think him being a safety blanket and a security blanket for Lamar Jackson is so key and so clutch for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. I think Lamar Jackson has the chance, now that they have some real receivers, to really, really take a step forward as a passer this year. And I expect Andrew's production to be at an all-time high this season. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. So Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, Armand agrees.
Well, looks like Kevin just popped out for a minute. So I think what he was gonna say was Armand. Um, okay, he's back.
I don't know
Hey,
what
yeah, that was,
I'm back.
all
Uh,
right. That was
last
very
thing I
weird.
said, if I don't know if you heard me, but Armand agrees that those are the top 3 in that order. And I'm thankful to him for just validating us and making us feel smart. Um, Next up, for me, Anthony, I have this is a tough one.
I know
I think
it
I'm
gets hard here. I think the first 3 was
I
easy, and now it's
think
like, oh
based
boy.
on last season's results and based on what I've seen on the field, I think number 4 I have to go with Dallas Goedert.
Hey, me too.
Philadelphia. Yeah, okay,
Yep,
look at us
yep,
go.
me too.
Thank you,
That's
Armand. Did you
exactly.
miss me? I missed you, man. It was a scary 11 seconds.
So
Um,
yeah, I mean, I liked him last year. I think that he did really good. He was always open. He was always available. He was a good blocker. He even took some runs, and so I think that
yeah,
he wasn't as good as our top 3, but I think he can be. He's definitely top
definitely.
5.
He's young. He's on the younger side
And
and
right, exactly. And Jalen Hurts is becoming such an incredible quarterback that's
paired
really
with a
going to
nice
benefit.
ascendant quarterback.
Yeah,
Absolutely, Anthony. I couldn't agree with you more. I think you have a great read on it. Yeah, I think this is a good 4. Goddard has that ability to be that flex tight end, that move tight end. He gets out in space really nicely. He runs great routes. He's got good hands. It's going to be a super reliable weapon for future NFL MVP Jalen Hurts. So I absolutely love our top 4. Number
I'm
5,
really
Anthony.
curious what your 5 is.
I'm going to call my shot here. I'm going to call my
Okay.
shot. I think this player in a new offense last year showed the potential that we always thought that they could have, and I'm going to go with Evan Ingram for the Jacksonville
Whoa, okay.
Jaguars. Am I reaching a little bit?
You might be,
I like Ingram a
but
lot, man.
mine might surprise you as well. So it
Give me the give me your 5.
Pat Fryermuth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's
Well,
shown enough to make my top 5. I think we have a little bit
so
more of
he
on-field
ranked
production from Ingram
I mean,
so
yeah,
far.
he ranked 6th at his position. He averaged 1.62 yards per route run, ranked 7th. His 37 catches going for either a first down or a touchdown. So he may not have been explosive, but he was reliable, and I think that
He's gonna be a
reliability is
great
huge
weapon
for a
for
tight end.
Pickett for sure. I do like the call, Anthony. I think you're kind of forecasting again. You're kind of predicting that he'll take that leap. I would have him more as a breakout
Oh,
candidate. I
no, I'm talking about
absolutely
in 2022. I think
no.
he
I know.
was
I
one
know
of the
you're.
best in 2022.
Yeah. I don't hate the call. Like I said, I think you're kind of calling your shot a little bit, but I don't hate it. I'm also calling my shot. We both have. I mean, there, like we said, there isn't a ton of great tight ends in the NFL. So Ingram and Fryermuth, I think, are in a similar tier. I think there's a tier break after the top 4, though. Armand, why don't you give us your 5th? Maybe Armand has a name that we're both overlooking or forgetting.
My,
But I
'cause my runner-ups were Hawkinson and Njoku.
I
I
also
don't
thought about those 2 guys. I thought about those 2 guys a lot. I thought about yeah. I think right now that's a solid top 7. I think Ingram, Fryermuth, Hawkinson, and Njoku are all in that next tier of tight end.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely. I
you
think
maybe
that
could throw Zach Ertz's geriatric self in there. Zach Ertz has been good. He did tear his ACL last year, though, so that does
yeah.
hurt. So I love that for a best list. I think we have a really good list.
I think
I'm
that
looking
was
forward
really
to
good. I like that.
seeing Armand's 5 if he can comment that for us, so we can get some different opinions in there. But I think without further ado, it's time for my least favorite part of these shows, which is the worst 5 starting tight ends.
Yep.
And I'll do in no order. I'll just say names that I think are upgradable for the teams. And in some cases, I put these names down knowing full well that they probably won't start because they have a guy behind them that I think will usurp them. But those are the breakout names.
All right,
But for now, I want to throw a special shout out, and this is oh my goodness, Armand has Dawson Knox as his 5th tight end in the league. I am flattered as a Bills fan, and I love Dawson Knox. I don't think I agree. He's a great red zone threat. He's a great end zone threat. He's pretty good between the 20s. He's not consistent enough for me. He doesn't put up numbers consistently.
I'd put him top 10, not top 5 though. Maybe like
I completely agree with that. So next up is our worst, and I am gonna throw a shout out to Anthony's tight end Brock Wright. Not because I have anything wrong with Brock Wright. I think Brock Wright's a fine player, but I think admittedly he's a tight end 2 at best. I don't.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, they even just said that Sam Laporta is going to start, but Brock Wright got put in a position that he wasn't ready for when Hawkinson got traded.
The starter on the depth chart, just for whatever that's worth.
On the depth chart, yes, but in OTAs, they were saying that Sam Laporta will be starting over him.
And I might have something to say about Sam Laporta in a little bit, but for now, we'll throw Brock Wright. I'm not saying he's the worst, but he's on the list. Like I said, in no order for worst. Anthony, you got a name for me?
Yeah, I do. It's his name's Jonnu Smith.
That is blasphemous. Where is he starting right now? What team is he starting for? What team?
The Patriots right now.
No, I think he got traded. Did he get traded to the Falcons? I think he's a Falcon.
He's a Falcon. So but when it comes to worst, because he didn't see the end zone once.
Well, and also don't forget he is probably the de facto starter right now because Kyle Pitts is hurt. So I don't hate that call at all. I'm gonna throw Durham Smythe in there, current starter for the Miami Dolphins. Don't think he's got the potential to be a great starting tight end. I think they are a wide receiver centric team, and I don't think. Thank you, Armand. Just confirmed that he is a Falcon. But he's probably the de facto starter there, so I don't hate that call.
Durham I'm gonna go Brate. Cameron
Brate, and is he still on Tampa?
He is, yes, yeah, he is.
I have K. Dotton as well on my list because
another one who only scored 1 touchdown in Tampa Bay. I think he was targeted like 54 times, caught like 19 of them.
Talking about last year, yeah, that's really not
last
good.
year. He dropped a lot of passes, and so
those are bad numbers.
I put him on my worst.
I have Jelani Woods. He could break out, but I haven't seen much thus far. Armand is hating on Tyler Conklin, Jets starting tight end.
I have Conklin on my list.
Conklin he's an end zone threat. I kept him off my bottom 5 because of his nose for the end zone. He scores touchdowns. So I have Conklin on my list. I don't have Conklin on my list, but I don't hate him on our list. Couple more names. We have Jelani Woods. We have Logan. I have Logan Thomas because of his injury history. And he plays for the Commanders. He hasn't been healthy in a long time. He signed a big juicy contract a couple years ago. Hasn't really done much at all. So I have Logan Thomas on my list. That's my list. Brock Wright, K. Dotton, Logan Thomas, Durham Smythe, Jelani Woods. I like that you threw Brayton in there, Conklin in there.
I put Fant in there, Noah Fant.
Noah Fant, that feels unfair.
It's hard. It's unfair, but he downgraded when he went to Seattle, and he wasn't the same as he was in Denver. If he was still in Denver and we were talking like 2021, maybe we could put him on breakout, but not after last year. I don't see it.
He did not take the step that a lot of people thought he would. He is looking a bit average right now. We will see.
I'm putting him at the back of worst tight end, so he's almost itching toward the in between before the
middle. You know I think we're looking at him as more of a hot seat for me. A lot of these guys could be hot seat guys because they just haven't proven it. But I like that for our worst list. I hate talking about worst because I'm trying to be positive. So we can,
of course, I'm the same
we can keep it moving to our breakout candidates, which is always fun. Do you have a number 1?
I do. Isaiah Likely.
Ooh, I like that. You're calling your shot there. He's not even the starter.
I
So
know,
you're calling your
but
shot there.
he's the young tight end, and they start working with that 2 tight end system, and you're gonna see a little bit more of Likely. You saw a lot of him last year. I did see a lot of Likely last year. There he got involved a lot. I think it had to do with when Mark Andrews went out, but who knows? Maybe that'll happen again. He'll get his shot. But
Yeah,
I think that Likely is a good tight end. He has a lot of potential. He just
yeah.
needs to get the targets. He needs the opportunity to reach that potential, and I think that next year might be that opportunity.
I like that call. I'm gonna call my shot with 2 rookie tight ends. I'm gonna start with Dalton Kincaid. I think that's obvious. And I'm gonna go with Sam Laporta, your boy in Detroit. I think both of
I
those
love that.
dudes can usurp their current starting tight ends, at least in targets. I think Dawson Knox will always be the de facto inline tight end for Buffalo because he's a better blocker and he's earned Josh Allen's trust over the years. So I think Knox will still line up as the de facto starting tight end. But in 2 tight end
Okay.
sets, Kincaid will line up, and I also think Kincaid will line up a lot in the slot. So I think Kincaid will absolutely break out. And Sam Laporta, if he's not the starting tight end for the Detroit Lions by the end of the season, I'd be shocked, honestly.
I truly think he will be. I've heard some news from reliable sources. But
Anthony's calling on his sources. Let's go.
I mean,
Anthony's texting Dan
um,
Campbell. Yo.
Cole Kmet is on my breakout list.
I kind of thought Cole Kmet broke out last year. I kept him off my
I
list
thought
because,
he
like,
did too, but I did a little bit more research and watched a little bit more film, and I feel like he's not quite there yet. That I
yeah,
think
he's
he
got
could
a,
be
yeah,
better.
he could take
When
a
I say
step for sure.
breakout, I'm talking like 1.5 times better, and
Could
so
enter
he's gonna
starting
take a
5, yeah.
jump. You know what I mean? Yeah, enter
Could
starting 5, and so
could enter
that's
that best 5, yeah.
I just think he has. I watched him in Notre Dame, so I've been watching this guy play since his years in college, and he has potential. He just needs the right quarterback. And with Justin Fields getting tackled in the backfield so many times last year, he didn't have the opportunity to get that ball. So with the offensive line adjustments that they're making and everything that they're making, adjusting the offense in Chicago, I think that he's going to break out because there's going to be more opportunity. There's going to be
I
more.
love that. I love that. Okay, Jake Ferguson from Dallas. We've already covered the metrics on this show. Jake Ferguson had some really impressive metrics. I believe it was maybe yards per route run and catch percentage. Some fantastic metrics that suggest that he could break out in Dallas. They let Dalton Schultz walk to the Texans, who could be a contender for breakout as well, but he's kind of already also broken out. So I kept him off my list of breakout and best, but I think Dalton Schultz deserves a mention on our tight end show as a great tight end. Jake Ferguson is a threat to break out for sure. Irv Smith, newly signed by the Cincinnati
I just put
Bengals.
him on there. Yes, I
Yep,
just
hell
he was
yeah.
on my
Let's
breakout list as
go.
well.
Let's
I'm
go.
glad
Go
we
ahead. Tell
agree
us
agree on that.
your thoughts on Irv Smith.
Yeah, I think, and this is the same thing I just said about Komet, where you just need the right offense, and you just need to create adjustments. And now he's on a brand new offense, so not only are there adjustments being made, but it's brand new to you. And this offense has seen playoffs, it's seen the Super Bowl, and so now you're a part of a group that knows what they're doing. And I think that that's going to really allow you to break out, allow you to get the carries, get the receptions. And I think Irv Smith has the potential to be one of the better tight ends in
Yeah,
at least AFC North.
And he's on a really good team with a really good quarterback throwing him the ball.
Absolutely, yeah.
I love that call of Irv Smith. I have 3 more for you, and I'm just going to rapid fire them because we've been on breakouts for a minute. It is my favorite one because it's all about potential, right? You got to
Oh,
look at
absolutely, and I love
not
potential.
where guys are, but where they can be. Greg Dulcich, who is looking at being used in a joker role for the Broncos offense, he's a threat. I mean, if Russell Wilson can get his crap together at all, Greg Dulcich is a threat to break out. Chig Okonkwo on the Tennessee Titans. I don't know about their quarterback situation, but he's flashed some crazy athleticism. So he's in contention. And Jawan Johnson for the New Orleans Saints. He was such a good player last year. He put up such good numbers, and he got no credit at all. Nobody seems to care about Jawan Johnson, but he's got Derek Carr throwing him the ball now. So
Right.
Jawan Johnson absolutely deserves to be on this list as well, because if Derek Carr can, find him and use him as a security blanket, Derek Carr loved Darren Waller. Jawan Johnson has a similar athletic profile. So I love our pick for the breakouts. Our mom's breakout tight ends. We have Darnell Washington, Steelers, Daniel Bellinger of the Giants, Luke Schoonmaker of the Cowboys. I'm calling the Jake Ferguson shot. Jeremy Ruckert and Davis Allen. I don't even know what team those guys are on. I think Ruckert's a rookie. I don't remember where he got drafted, but Allen I've never even heard of, I want to say. So Armand's really reaching deep down in the cookie jar. I like that. Armand, I like you calling your shot there. Anthony, thoughts on any additional breakout tight ends? Thoughts on Armand's breakout tight ends? Any final thoughts before we move on to the hot seat?
No, I'm good there. I really like our list. These
It's a good
names
list.
are looking like they could break out next year. So we'll see if any of them reach our top 5 or even top 10. And so
Yeah,
we
it's
see
a
if they break
beautiful
out or
list.
not.
It is a
We'll
beautiful
have to
list.
see.
Now, I don't think there's even a question. I only have 3 hot seat tight ends because I think that the position has a lot of fluidity to it, a lot of flexibility to it. There's always 2 or 3 tight ends on every team, sometimes 4, and a lot of them are used for blocking. A lot of them are used for inline. A lot of them are used for, pass protection.
Two tight
So
end sets.
you can't really look at tight ends the way you do at other positions because tight end 2s matter. Oh, and Anthony he spoiled it.
It's Pitts.
But it's
Kyle
the hottest
Pitts.
tight end seat in the league. I couldn't agree more, buddy. He's my number 1. So good call, Anthony. Tell us why.
Yeah. This guy who came in drafted so high. I mean, he was expected to be one of the he was expected to be one of the greatest tight end rookies of that class, and he just wasn't. Can you blame the offense? Can you blame the quarterback? Can you blame Kyle? I mean, I don't know. But then he got hurt. He hasn't come back. And even if he does come back, I don't think he's even going to be able to perform like he was expected to. And this is the hottest seat in the NFL right now because of the expectations that were held to him. So I think that if things don't work out in Atlanta for him, he's either going to see free agency or he's going to see a trade.
Yeah, he needs to step it up, Anthony. I couldn't agree with you more. He needs to produce like a tight end 1 for fantasy, for the NFL. He needs to catch some touchdowns. I would like to see him push. He might have had 1,000 yards as a rookie, which was pretty impressive, but touchdowns have never been there for Pitts in the NFL. Fantasy success, fantasy consistency has never been there. I'm going to go with a weird one for my hot seat, and I am asking for both Anthony and Armand to be patient with me while I work my way through these thoughts. But I think I love the player, and he's proven to be great, but I think Dawson Knox is on the hot seat. Not because he's not great, not because he hasn't been great, but Dalton Kincaid is going to be breathing down his neck. And Dawson Knox did sign a big contract prior to last season, and he was as good as he's always been. He's a reliable touchdown threat. He caught the game winner against Kansas City in the regular season, which people forget. Buffalo beat Kansas City in Arrowhead the last 2 seasons, but people want to talk about the regression of the Bills. So I love Dawson Knox, but we need to see him, hold off Kincaid because Kincaid's got some growth he's got some steps he's got to take as a blocker if he wants to take Knox's job. But I don't think Dawson Knox is paid like a tight end 2, so I don't think he'll be a tight end 2 anytime soon. But it's just something to watch. Anthony, you got any more hot seats?
Yeah, I actually have Juwan Johnson on my hot seat.
And
I'm saying that because he did good. He's a good tight end, but he made mistakes when he couldn't make mistakes. He dropped passes in the end zone. There were times where he ran out of bounds when he still had 5 yards to go. And it's just little things like that. And I think they're kind of looking at him like, all right, are you the tight end that we, you got Derek Carr now, you have this new offense, this new offensive mind. And I just think like, they're gonna have to make a decision here. Is he a part? Is he going to be a crucial part of the offense, or do they have to move a different direction in that position? That's why I think Juwan Johnson is in the hot seat.
I think it's very comfortable to have players who are on both breakout and hot seat because if they don't break out, that's the reason they're on the hot seat because you are expecting them to take a step forward and they have to. So I like this call, Anthony, even though I do foresee Johnson stepping up. I do foresee Johnson having a good season. I think it's a good call to have him on both lists. I have one more, Anthony, and then we can wrap this puppy up. Short show. Well, it's a Monday.
We're talking about tight ends,
Tight ends, it's difficult to stretch the topic, but I'm glad we're covering every position. Offensive lineman on Friday. What do you think about that, Anthony? Offensive lineman on Friday? Love that.
Sounds good to me.
Last but not least, we have Armand. Really quick, we have a response from Armand. I appreciate this. I don't disagree with you, K. Fox, but I think wide receiver Gabe Davis should be worried and feel the pressure about Kincaid. in my opinion, Kincaid takes a lot of targets away from Gabe. I could not agree with you more, my friend. I know you're a fan of Knox. You have him in your top five tight ends, and I'm, like I said, I am flattered by that. I love Dawson Knox. He's one of my favorite players. I thought about getting his jersey last year. I ended up going with Rousseau instead because Rousseau is younger and on a rookie deal. But Gabe Davis should be worried. Yeah, I think Kincaid is more of a weapon than a tight end. That's the wording that's been coming out from the Bills ever since they drafted him. So I do think that Gabe Davis will probably lose some of that work in the wide receiver two wide receiver sets or flex sets. But Gabe is a great blocker, and Gabe, he's so trusted by the team. I don't know why that catch percentage was a freaking abysmal. One of the worst things I've ever seen. So I do agree with you that Kincaid puts a lot more pressure on Gabe than Knox. I don't think Knox is going to feel the heat much at all his first Kincaid rookie year. But if Kincaid flashes and turns into one of the best tight ends in the NFL, then Knox as the de facto tight end one, his days might be numbered. He might turn into the movable chess piece, or just the blocker, or just the, yada, yada. But Knox will always have a nose for the end zone. He'll always have a spot on any team I'm a fan of. I love Dawson Knox, but Kincaid, I think, just the fact that they drafted a tight end in the first round, I do think it does put a little bit of, let's see some production from Dawson Knox. He's got a big contract. Let's see a big year from Knox, I think.
So
my final tight end hot seat plays for the Vegas Raiders, and they drafted Michael Mayer to come in, and Austin Hooper is the de facto tight end one. So I have Austin Hooper on my hot seat because many contracts has this guy got off of his handful of years of success in it was Atlanta, right? He had a couple years there where he was good in Atlanta, went and signed a big contract, with the Browns, I want to say, with the Titans, I want to say, now with the Raiders. This dude, Austin Hooper, has been coasting off of his success for a handful of seasons back in his prime with the Falcons, and I haven't seen it since. And Mayer's going to be breathing down his neck the same way Kincaid's going to be breathing down Knox's neck, and yada, yada. So, Anthony, what are your thoughts on Austin Hooper on the hot seat?
I think he's going to be behind Mayer. I do.
You think by the start of the season, you think it'll switch?
I actually do. I think that they're going to put the young guy ahead. I think there's room for development there. And Hooper's going to be there. He's going to be making plays. We're going to see him on the field blocking, or maybe they're going to work a 2 tight end set. I don't know, but we're going to see him play. I just don't think he's going to break out or anything. I think that they drafted Michael Mayer with the intention that they're going to put him in that tight end position. And so I like that as a hot seat but if they don't give him the opportunity to thrive, then I don't think we can call it a hot seat, because then that's just the position that he's been forced in.
Absolutely. Could not agree with you more, Anthony. Well, that about does it. I mean, another one in the books. We are doing our legit football position breakdown series. It's been so fun. These are the kinds of things in the offseason that nobody wants to do them, but everybody needs to do them. Okay, we need to get this deep into the positions, because how much better of an understanding do we have of the NFL landscape when we break it down this thorough? Am I right, Anthony?
Absolutely. I like how we're going through each position, because
it's not as glamorous. Yeah, it's not as glamorous. It's not as sexy, but it's very fun. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Armand, for keeping the chat on fire. As always, you are the GOAT. I will never step off that pedestal. I will always stand on a rooftop and say Armand is the GOAT. I forever until I die. Anthony, the band is back together. We're like Pawnee, band is on the run. We're killing it. We're doing what we do. Be subscribed. Adrian Ravito has been really great about reminding everybody who listens, who checks in. Please subscribe. Big shout out to Martini PK, my pops, who has been in the chat. He always puts emojis for some reason in the chat that show up as text. So hand pink waving back at you, Dad, as well. Ladies and gentlemen, hand pink waving. Thank you, Dad. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Legit Football NFL podcast, and we are